Hey guys, Sabri Subi here, and welcome to this module of quantum growth called Flooding the Nile. And today's training is all about architecting a high-performance workflow that really floods your goals with life. Because just like in Egypt, where in the monsoon season, in this short period of heavy rain, that's what contributes up to 90% of the water of the Nile, which spans over 6,000 kilometers. And your work, your output, and your activity levels and effectiveness is what makes your dreams a reality. And yeah, you need to have like a clear vision of your dreams and your goals and the person that you will need to become in order to achieve those goals. But nothing happens without machine-like levels of output. And before we go over exactly that, let's take a look at what we'll be covering in today's training. So we'll be covering architecting a high-performance workflow, then ruthless prioritization, godlike levels of output, deep work, decision fatigue, and machinery plus hacks. So first of all, architecting a high-performance workflow. What is the goal, right? Everything starts with the goal, the target, the outcome that you're optimizing for. And if you don't know where you're supposed to go, you shouldn't even move because you're just as likely to end up further away than you are closer towards your goals. And one of the biggest issues that I see with business owners and people in general is that they don't take the time to really understand the goal. They may be able to kind of rattle off a list of things that they're working on, but great business owners continuously ask the hard questions of themselves and really of their team to understand the nuances, the first principles that went into defining the target that they're actually trying to hit or the outcome that they're optimizing for. And the deeper that one can understand that, the more precise their path to the goal will be. And before you think about like increasing your output, you really need to be crystal clear on the goal that we're working towards. And you can do this by revisiting your dream farming worksheet. And if you're not clear on this, then you need to stop this training right now and you need to go and do that because there's no point really going and figuring out how to architect a high performance workflow if you don't know the goal. Because this training will just be absolutely worthless without that. And it would be like trying to create a map to just an unknown destination. So if you haven't done that, please stop this training and go and do that right now. Okay, now I'm going to assume that you already do have a clearly defined goal. And then once you do that, you want to break it down like this. So basically, it's all about, creating like your dream in years. Like you want to dream where you're trying to go to in years, right? Like, because when you're dreaming, it's like you're painting that future of like, a better outcome. And typically that's not going to happen in a month, right? This is kind of more long term. So you generally dream in years, you set goals in quarters, you plan in months, you evaluate your performance in weeks, and you execute like a madman violently daily. And once you've broken it down as such like that, and you've kind of got, okay, this is what I'm going to be going for the quarter. Let me plan out exactly what that looks like in the months. Now, let me see how I'm tracking towards those monthly targets in weeks. And then let me have a regimented day by day, or an hour by hour, really day plan on executing on that violently. Then it's about ruthlessly prioritizing, right? And all high performance business owners, they must prioritize. Like not once a month, not once a week, but rigorously and ruthlessly. Prioritization means doing the things that are the most important first. And it means doing the things that create the most customer value and have the biggest impact on your company and ultimately produce the most revenue and upside for your company first. Okay? Now, prioritization can be broken down into two scopes. One is prioritization between projects. This is about determining what project that your company should do next that will have the biggest impact. And basically what I find is that people, they just spend too much time doing and not enough time thinking about the doing and really looking at where is it they're trying to go, how are they going to get there, and then what are the things, what are those small little hinges, and what are the areas and the impact areas of their business that they can really focus on that are really going to propel their company forward. And really just prioritizing on them ruthlessly. So the first scope of that is to be able to prioritize between projects and have a look and be clear that all projects aren't created equal and they're not all going to have the same impact. Then the second thing is prioritizing the work within a project. And this is about how efficiently that you can break down the constituent parts and execute a project. And you do that by applying the mental model of the 4% rule and having a look at what are the 4% of this different activity or this project that I'm working on that are going to result in 64% of the output and the effectiveness of this project. What are those really crucial, important points that I absolutely must nail? I must make them world class in order for this project to be effective. So let's first break down prioritization between projects. And that is really the question of what project will I invest in next? And answering this question, it may require some rigor, but the process isn't complicated. So let me break down each part of this. So prioritization between projects. First of all, you really need to estimate the long-term impact of each project and what it will have on the future of your company. Because the basis of all project prioritization is really the return on investment and the return on your time, which is measured as the amount of customer value that your company creates from a unit of time that you're going to be investing in this project. And your goal with prioritization is always to be doing the work that maximizes customer value created over time, i.e. the future of the company, as you're compensated in direct proportion to the amount of value that you create. And that's really the equation that you always need to be thinking about. And that's the long-term thinking, is that you are directly compensated for the amount of value that you create for your customers out there in the marketplace. And when you're sitting down and you're looking at all the different projects that you can potentially be investing your time in, the thing that you really want to be thinking about is the long-term impact, the second, third order consequences that it's going to have in you focusing on that. Then you want to estimate the return on investment for each project that you're going to be working on. What is the impact going to be? Are you going to be working on just producing some Facebook ads that may not have some extreme long-term benefits? They might have some really good short-term benefits, but what's the long-term impact? Do you know what I mean? Is that bettering your service delivery or the products and services that you sell or the distribution of those, whatever it might be? The next thing is to identify the units of resources required. How much time, how much money, how many team members are you basically going to need in order to basically execute on this plan? And then what you want to do is sequence the projects based on the impact that it's going to have on total customer value long term and the ROI that it's going to be generating for you. And this whole concept of prioritization, you've obviously heard it many, many times before, but how many people actually have, a systemized process for just striking and really prioritizing the task and then attacking them with just violent action. So you can get very clear on what it is that you should be working on your business right now, what's going to have the most impact. Because when I speak with most business owners, they're overwhelmed. They don't know where to focus on. And it's because there isn't a system in place. They're just randomly prioritizing things based on their emotions, and they're not really thinking about it as a systems thinker and looking at the second and third order consequences. So in order to be able to prioritize between projects, you need to estimate these two data points: the amount of customer value that it will be produced and the amount of time that it will take to finish the project. So how do we do that? Well, we do that using a RICE planning tool, and I've included a link to one of these in the resources section of this module. And essentially what the RICE tool does is, first of all, you have the project name in the first column, like what it is it launching a new website, creating a new webinar, creating new Facebook ads. Then the first column that we have in the RISE tool is reach. So how many customers will this project reach? Is it going to be 1,000? Is it 10,000? Is it 100,000? Then secondly, what is the impact? So what impact will this project have on your customers? And there's a drop down and you can basically choose, is it high? Is it low? Is it extremely high? Of what the impact that it's going to have on your business. And you do want to be thinking long term. We're not thinking in the first order consequences on the shallow effects that this is going to have. Then the third thing is confidence. How confident are you that the estimates for reach, impact, and effort, like how confident are you that it is going to reach 10,000 people, your webinar, and that the impact is going to be high? Because you're going to have different levels and varying levels of confidence across that, and you want to apply that. And then also look at the effort. So, estimate the number of weeks that of resources that it's going to take to complete this project for a person. Okay, and is it going to be 10 weeks? Is it 2? Is it 1? And then basically RISE score, it will essentially tell you, like, focus your efforts on the project with the highest scores. And that's going to basically show you from those data points exactly where it is that you should be focusing on. And this is the way that I want you to think about any project that you're going to embark on in your business moving forward. Is you do need to think about this, because as we covered, in the earlier modules around, the time is the only thing that you have. And if you're not systematic with it, and first of all, you're not like eradicating and automating and buying time, but then in the time that you're actually left with that you are going to apply on your business, then you need to make sure that that time is spent in the most effective way to gain you the most impact and reach and leverage for your business. So you can find that link in the resources section. Go and use that religiously for all of the tasks that you're planning on executing in the business. Now, this brings us to the next point, which is prioritization within a project. So at this stage, we've already gone, okay, we know what are the projects that it is that we're going to choose on based using the RISE tool and where we're going to have the most impact and reach and create the most long-term customer value. Now what we want to look at is prioritization within that project that it is that we select. And a ruthless mindset is required to determine, is this absolutely necessary to do? What are the small hinges that are going to swing the big doors within this project? What is the 4% of activities that's going to result in the 64% of the output? And the nature of prioritization is different during the execution of a project. It's chaotic, right? You're in the project, you're on the front lines doing it. There's problems coming up. It's just a chaotic place to be. And there is a large volumes of decisions that need to be made every single day. And you don't have the time to analyze each one of these as deeply as we did when we were prioritizing between tasks. So we're not going to apply the RISE tool within every single project within the task. You want to apply your multi-level mental models at each turn, where you can just apply the 4% rule and you can apply, other models around inversion and whatever it might be to those different decisions that you have to make within that task. And having a ruthless mindset really means making the hard choices every day on where to focus and forgetting about everything else. And it's about keeping momentum within a project and focusing on getting it done, right? There are going to be problems that come up. You need to have the ability to basically run through walls, make decisions using mental models without sitting down there and getting like analysis paralysis and not even, having those momentum. So momentum within the project is really important. You need to keep those wheels turning. And you must ruthlessly keep asking, is this absolutely necessary? Is it essential? Most business owners are not naturally ruthless prioritizers. And it's a muscle that you definitely need to build, and you need to be decisive about it. And it's a craft, and one that you can deliberately get better at with practice if you come from a place of feeling empowered. And the last thing that I'll say on this is there is always a way to accomplish your goal faster than you currently plan to. I'll say that again. There is always a way to accomplish your goal faster than you currently plan to. Always. You just have to find it. You just have to ask, how can we do this in half the time? How can I achieve 10 times of these results in the same amount of time? Get your team together for a planning session, go break out into a room, go for a coffee, whatever it might be. And just basically ask your team as well, like, how can we do this better? How can we do it more efficiently? And you'll be amazed with the solutions that you can come up with by applying this kind of thinking. Trust me, you will find a way. It's something that I always do with my team internally in our offices, where, the last thing that you want to do is hire smart people and then tell them what to do. You want to use the hive mind and triangulate your views and try to come up with solutions. And the way that you do that is by sitting down with your team and asking those types of questions of how can we do this in half the time? Or how can we get 10 times the results or the levels of output in the same amount of time? And you'll be really surprised with what it is that you come up with. So they're the two things that you need to really be looking at. Now, moving on. Godlike levels of output. And this is really about, you're in the task now, you know what task it is that you want to work on, and then you're actually working on the things within that task that are important. And it's about, how do we just create godlike levels of output? How can we be an efficient machine that has all of our tools and our systems fully optimized like a high-tuned Ferrari, and we're just built for performance, right? And typically the distinction and the way that this is done, the way that you do get godlike levels of output, it's not from managing your time, right? Because it's all about managing your energy, not time. And that is really the fundamental currency of high performance and really having godlike levels of output. One of the most deadly pitfalls to productivity that I see people do is they really don't match the energy that is required to the task at hand. They think all the time is created equal. They have like 60 minutes and an hour, and it doesn't matter if that hour is at 9 a.m. or is at 2 p.m. And this is a fallacy, because energy, not time, is the fundamental currency of high performance. And performance, health, and happiness are grounded in the skillful management of energy. The number of hours in a day, in a week, in a month, they're fixed, right? Those units of time are fixed. But the quantity and quality of energy available to us is not. That's not a fixed thing. And it is our most precious resource, is really that energy that we can put into that unit of time. And the more you take responsibility for your energy, the more productive you will become. Look, it's easy to come into the office, sit at your desk, and just start checking emails. And before you know it, your whole morning has been hijacked by somebody else's to-do list. And then you finally get some time just before you're supposed to go home to work on the most important project, but you're just tired and you're not thinking as well, and you don't have as much mental RAM and horsepower behind what it is that you need to do. And people walk around with diaries and day planners and to-do lists and iPhones and iCalendar open and reminders and Slack notification and pop-up reminders on multiple devices. And all of those are, quote unquote, designed to help them manage their time better. But what they don't realize is that the constant bombardment of these things, they zap your energy and they really just suck it out of you. And that is the key here. It's energy. That's what we're talking about. And every one of your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors, it has an energy consequence to it. Right? Just think of a time where you went to the office or you started your day and there was some big bombshell dropped on you, right? How did that affect your energy? Did you still have a really productive day, or did it kind of suck the zest out of you and then that day was just written off? Like if you're working like 5 hours straight on a project, but already lose concentration and focus after 2 hours, then that's not going to help you perform at what I call level 10, at your best, right? Where you're at your peak state. Because optimizing our performance and our health and our happiness is not about the quantity of time, but it's about the quality of the energy in those units of time. So in order to achieve godlike levels of output, you must be physically energized and mentally sharp and focused. And this all comes down to managing your energy. Okay, so we are human beings. We are not supercomputers or robots. And I see people saying that they can sit down and they can work for 12 or 14 hours straight, but we're not meant to run at high speeds continuously for long periods of time. And science have already showed that if you sit down and you're working on a really intensive task, you're no way near as effective at hour 1 that you are at hour 4, right? It's a different human being. You got different levels of energy, okay? And instead, we are performing at our best when we move between expending energy and intermittently renewing energy. And we live in a universe that is characterized by rhythmic, wave-like movement and activity and rest. And like I covered in the earlier modules, the most famous rhythm which we adhere to is the circadian rhythm. And we live our lives in 24-hour periods, right? We're awake for 15, 18, 16 hours, whatever it might be, and then we're off asleep for 7 to 9 hours. And a period of activity is followed by a period of rest. And a period of energy expenditure is followed by a period of energy renewal. Regardless of what some stupid people in the business community on Instagram or on YouTube might tell you about just hustling and grinding and just working till there's blood dripping out of your eyeballs, our energy resources aren't endless. They're not. Right? We can't sprint 100% for more than 10 to 30 seconds. And we can't concentrate for hours and hours on end. Right? We can't stay awake for much more than 18 to 24 hours before our performance just completely plummets. Sooner or later, we need to refuel our energy. And you need to either fully engage or you need to strategically disengage. Okay? Because highly specific routines for managing your energy are the key to full engagement and sustained high performance. Just imagine if you look for the typical long distance runner, right? And you think about them they're typically skinny and they're kind of gaunt and they look unhealthy and not very energetic, right? These guys on the right hand side. Now, imagine a sprinter like Usain Bolt, they're powerful, healthy, strong, shredded, bursting with energy and just power, that raw power. And look at the sprinters on the left-hand side. They just look a lot more healthy, right? Why? Well, it's because they're oscillating, right? And they're on and then they're off. And they fully exert themselves and then they follow that by a period of rest. They're not just out there sprinting around the track constantly, right? They're sprinting as hard as they possibly can and then they're having a period of rest. They're either fully engaged or they're strategically disengaged. And this adheres to nature's rhythms. Like the sprinter, we want to live our life as a series of sprints and we want to oscillate between periods of intense engagement and equally intense renewal. It makes total sense, right? However, that's not how people live their life. And it's not how most people live their life. Instead, most people are in a state of constant energy preservation. They're never fully on in what I call level 10 peak state and just fully going for it. And then they're also never fully off. They're never fully engaged and never fully disengaged. They've got their iPhones on them, they're constantly thinking about work, or they're at work and then they've got their iPhone again and it's constantly notifying them of outside inputs that aren't about the work that they're actually working on. And instead of oscillating in their lives, typically living linear lives, which is the complete opposite. Think about the typical workday, for example, right? Do you ever fully concentrate and give 100% of all of your attention to any given task that you're working on, where you literally just block out everything? And I'm talking about fully dialing in and getting in that flow state. Phone's on airplane mode, it's turned off, it's out of sight, no email tabs are open, there's no Google Hangouts, there's no Slack or any other mindless distractions. No one can come and, knock on your door. I dare say not. Right? The people, that I know in the business community, it's very, very rare that anybody gets into this complete state of flow where they block out every and all distraction. For example, most people look at breaks as a sign of weakness, and instead they work in a state of constant energy preservation for hours and hours on end. Even when they're tired, they can barely concentrate anymore. They just kind of keep going and going and going, and it's just completely pointless because the output just goes down so disproportionately for the same amount of energy or input that you have to put in that from a unit of time. And they do that until eventually the clock hits 5:30 p.m. or 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. And then they go home and they binge on Netflix until they have to go to bed. But watching Netflix or TV or YouTube, it doesn't count as either full engagement or full disengagement. It's just a state of low static noise type of energy. And this is neither our natural nor our optimal way of living for maximum output and production. So maximum output using an ultradian rhythm. So the body has all kinds of biological rhythms, right? This field of study is called chronobiology and really underscores the intricate relationship between our biological rhythm and time itself. And the primary biological rhythms are clumped under ultradian, circadian, and also infradian. And the body's ultradian rhythms regulate energy, mood, and cognitive function. A whole medley of like hormones and metabolic processes and cardiovascular functions carry out our ultradian rhythms. But the basic takeaway is this: our bodies operate according to a biological rhythm. So for productivity, we are concerned with the specific ultradian rhythm known as the basic rest activity cycle, or BRAC. And this is a rhythm that plays out in 120-minute cycles non-stop, day and night. And it's most detectable during sleep. And if you will see, if you buy an Oura Ring or some other kind of tracking device for your sleep, when we move from non-REM sleep to REM sleep and back. And that's kind of like, the rhythm that you see, and it's very clearly articulated in that sleep cycle. Over and over again throughout the night, you kind of are cycling between REM and deep sleep. But it's also present in more subtler forms throughout the day. And it's impossible to go against this. It's biological. So the whole thing about just working 12, 14 hours straight and being the same levels of output is complete bullshit. Because that's why so many people might brag about sitting down at their computer for just long periods of time, but they're just fooling themselves. They're not being productive. Instead, what is far more efficient is to work in 90-minute sprints. Turn off all distractions, no phones, no emails, none of that stuff, and just laser focus on the task at hand with all of your mental RAM and all that mental horsepower. Every single fiber of you, all that you have, for 1.5 hours without a break. Then have 10 to 20 minute break and kind of go get a drink of water, go for a walk, do some star jumps, some deep breathing, or my favorite, which is that we kind of keep in the office, is to play some table tennis, right? And just break it up, shake it all out, right? And the reason that I like table tennis is because the games are short, they're intense, and you really have to focus on the game at hand. And it also gets your heart rate up and your blood pumping. So I find that that's a really good hack. Now, your goal is to make the most out of those 90 minutes of activity by making the most out of those 20 minutes of your rest period, right? So you can't just work intensely for 90 minutes and then go check email for 20 minutes. That's not how it works. Fully engaged or fully disengaged. Before your next 90-minute sprint, take 2 minutes, sit down, close your eyes, listen to your breath, take some deep breaths and kind of just get back into the zone. If you are walking, want to listen to your breath, sense your pulse, just get conscious that you're about to get into it, right? And if you follow this process, it will literally change your life. You will get so much more done. And the difference that it has on your output is seriously insane. Once I became aware of this rhythm and I started to build it into my daily output, it was just my output just went up ridiculous. It was insane. So definitely want to be, think about this rhythm and think about it with everything that you do, because we're living on a planet that everything adheres to a rhythm. And more mental energy that you will get from doing this process, it means that you can take more action and you will experience your mind firing on all cylinders instead of one like kind of broke piston. And you process information more quickly, and you're more creative, and you really possess an ability to synthesize your thoughts into whatever task that you're working on. And you become a very clean thinker because you're really manage your energy, and you're not just in this reactive state of chaos where you're not even knowing what to prioritize on. And then even when you do know what to prioritize on, you just think that you can work in like straight up like 10, 12, 14 hour blocks on something. And when you get rid of that and you move to this 90 minutes of intense focus, 20 minutes off, 90 minutes on, you're just going to be so clear in your mind and you're going to get more done than you ever have before. So now let's get into the actual specifics of how you apply this in your life. So the way that I do it is that I work for basically 6 times 1.5 hour sprints per day. So I get 6 of these 1.5 hour sprints of, level 10 activity. And that equates to 9 hours of fully engaged, L10A, which is level 10 activity. And I'm just super, super applied in those 9 hours. Now, this is something that I have worked up to, okay? So to begin with, the way that you want to approach it is that you want to start working in basically 25 minutes and then have a 5-minute break, okay? So after 3 rounds of that, then basically what you want to do is take a 20-minute rest break, and you want to avoid all mentally demanding activities in that task. Okay. And then what you want to do is you can do kind of like 2 to 3 times of that per day in a row for 5 days. And then you start to extend those work sessions and just gradually build them out. And after a few successful days of this, then you just crank up that dial to 45 minutes straight. And then you follow that up by a 5-minute break. And then you do one more 45-minute session. And then you take a 20-minute renewal and healing break. And then finally, after a few days of doing that, then you can build up to the 90 minutes of uninterrupted work. And then, of course, your 20-minute healing and renewal break, but nothing more than that. And you might be thinking like, no, I'm a machine, Sabri. I'm just going to go straight to the 90 minutes. Don't do that, because what you'll find is from applying this is when you go from being fully engaged to fully disengaged, you're not going to be able to really lift that 90 minutes of work uninterrupted, fully engaged. It's like a weight. That's why I use the word lift, right? It's like walking into the gym when you've never worked out and being like, okay, I'm going to bench press 100 kilos. Like, you need to build up to that. And it's a muscle that you need to work on. And what would happen if you went straight to 90 minutes without building up to it is that 90 minutes just wouldn't be fully engaged work. So it's something that you want to build up to. And this cycle encompasses multiple areas of self-optimization, because not only is it a great tool for like just 10xing your productivity, but it's also a great like foray into hypnotic and subconscious states, because it's almost hypnotic when you get into flow and you're fully engaged on a task. And then it's like you stop that after 90 minutes. You might have an alarm on your phone or whatever it might be. And then it brings you out. You're like, holy shit, like that was already 90 minutes. Like I can't even believe that went so quickly. And you look at the quality of work that you were able to output in that 90 minutes. And it's almost like a hypnotic state that you're just so focused. And I can't stress enough how powerful this technique is. Whether you're writing copy or you're making sales calls or you're interviewing people or you're coding or designing or whatever it might be, having this kind of like batching where you batch these tasks together and then you just literally attack them violently for short periods of time, like everything that you do is better. Like the sales copy will be way better. You'll be way more effective on the sales call because you're not sitting down and thinking, okay, I've got a full 8-9 hours on the telephone right now. Like that's not an empowering state. You sit down, you're like, cool, I've got an hour and a half of power. I'm going to rip through these calls and I'm going to give it everything that I've got. Or I've got 13 people to interview. Let me get on the phone, really get to the bottom and try to suss out if these people are going to help my organization, if they're going to be a great fit. Either I'm going to be a good fit for them, if they're going to be a good fit for our company. So it's really, really profoundly powerful. Now, it also has a hidden benefit, right? So not only is it great for just like producing the godlike levels of output and literally decimating your competition, because it's like taking like just this weak and frail machine and just putting it up against the Terminator, who's just so much more effective. But aside from that, there is also another underlying benefit that is equally as beneficial. It forces you to get up and move every 90 minutes, because sitting down at your computer is like the new smoking. It causes a long list of like horrible and even fatal side effects. And research shows that exercise isn't enough and doesn't seem to undo the health effects of excessive sitting. Like, you can't sit down at your desk for 8 hours a day and then go do a rigorous 1 hour workout and think that you have reversed all the side effects of sitting all day long. That's not how it works. Like, think about us as human beings. Do you think we were naturally designed to be sitting down at a desk with our muscles not engaged, looking at a computer screen emitting blue light into your retina? That's not how we are. Like, we're meant to be out there, like, roaming around and hunting and gathering and things like that. So all the science suggests that, people used to think it's like, okay, I get my heart rate up for 30 minutes, like I'm good. No, you need to get up and keep moving. You need to oscillate, and you need to get the blood pumping, get your heart rate up. And the way that you do that is, you really reverse and kind of avoid those side effects by getting up every 90 minutes, doing some star jumps, playing table tennis, the heart rate gets up, your mind is disengaged, and then bang, you sit down back again, right? So that's a thing that is a huge, huge health benefit in there. And so it not only helps with your focus and the energy, but it also helps just with your long-term health and therefore your energy source that's going to drive you throughout your life. So let's look at intensely focused deep work. So performed in a state of just complete distraction-free concentration to really push your cognitive capabilities to the absolute limits, like just redlining your cognitive ability. And these efforts are really, the 4% of activities that are going to create, the new value, they're going to improve your skill, and they're going to bring in the disproportionate amount of revenue. And it requires extreme focus, and it requires discipline and concentration, and is something which must be deliberate to increase your performance and your output. Because you've heard me just talking now about like intensely full engaged work, but now I'm going to break down actually how you do it and the parts that make up intensely focused. Because you can't just say, all right, just sit down for 90 minutes and work really hard. Like, how do you actually do that? How do you intensely focus on the deep work that's really going to move the needle for your business for 90 minutes at a time, right? And as I said, it requires a lot of focus and a lot of discipline and a lot of concentration to be able to do it. And it's not something that's just going to naturally dawn on you. It must be a deliberate effort. And this type of work is the opposite of distracted, shallow work. It's deep work. We're getting deep into the zone. And you might be working in your business and you might say, well, Sabri, I can't get into deep work every single day because I've got people to manage and there's things that I need to do. And my business isn't just set up for that right now, where I can just have a full day of doing this kind of activity. So then here's how you actually do it. Here's how we actually apply this model. So you have a standard day, right, which starts at your normal time for your deep work days. And you're going to basically have a certain few days of the week that you do this. So for instance, for me, I'm running a team of 70 plus people. I can't do this level of work every single day. So I have designated days that I do my deep work. So, but before we dive into that, essentially on your deep work days, you want to be asking yourself when and where. So you need to have repeated locations and you need to have repeated time frames. It can't be like, I'll just get to the deep work when I get to it or when the time frees up on my calendar. That's not how it works, right? You need to have it repeated. It needs to be locked in. It needs to be on the calendar. You need to be consistent with how you'll work. 90-minute blocks and then your gap, 90-minute blocks and then your rest and renewal period. right? And then supplementation and support, like methods for gathering materials, organizing your work, and really structure of your work. Because how do you create an environment where it is free of distraction and you can just go and gather all of the information that you need to sit down and apply yourself for 90 minutes straight? And how do you organize it all? Right? This isn't like go with the flow work, right? That's not how this works. This is working on the important stuff, right? This is focused, intense work. And in order to do it, you must drain the shallows. And the shallows is the space where your short-term attention spans play and stretch and really play havoc. And it's kind of the non-cognitively demanding admin and logistical style tasks, often performed in a chaotic state of just distraction and noise. And these are busy activities that keep you feeling busy, but don't create new value or like move the money needle in your business. And this is where most people spend the majority of their energy, in the shallows. They multitask. They give in to distractions. And they give the same amount of time and energy towards any and all tasks that they encounter throughout their day. And they produce mediocre results and limited value creation. And when you're going up against an intensely focused, ruthless, prioritizing, deep working ninja, right? They get slaughtered because they're just so less effective as an entrepreneur and as a business builder. And while they're like burning their time or constantly have got like their email tab open or Slack or GChat, or they're running errands, or they're checking Facebook and Instagram and the text messages that come in, or they're talking with colleagues all the time and gossiping and with their coworkers and all that kind of stuff, the ninja has a Terminator gaze on their goals. And they're just running through walls and just working in sprints intensively. They're prioritizing on the major tasks. And then when they get into the zone on a task, they are just like producing godlike levels of output. Like, how can the average civilian business owner ever compete with somebody like that? They can't. And that's why they get slaughtered. And so here's what you actually need to do, the specifics. So you need to schedule your entire day, right? Your whole day. I'm not talking about just a part of it, just the morning, just some days. Your whole day. And the way that I do that is I use Google Calendar, and I schedule both the deep work and also the shallow work. So you will have to do like some shallow work, right? There will be an area that you do have to engage in some shallow work if you're running a business and managing people, human beings. For me, that work is done on Mondays and it's also done on Fridays. So I have batched all of my meetings on a Monday or on a Friday. So then what I do have is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, which are my deep work days. Right? And I know that nothing's going to come and mess with that on my deep work days. Okay? And I plan what I'm doing on those deep work days the day before, every single day. I know exactly what I'm doing on that deep work day the day before it happens. And no one is allowed to book time in with me. They cannot come and interrupt me. They cannot give me, like, oh, do you got a meeting for this bushfire? Nothing. I close all the doors, which are soundproof, and I close the curtains. I close email, I turn off my phone, I plan some ambient deep focus music, and I just work like a maniac, right? I don't fuck around with anything, right? This is my life. And even if you haven't gathered already, I take my time and my work very, very seriously. So the way that I've structured it up is meetings on Mondays, and I do deep work from the office on Tuesdays. And then Wednesdays, I work from home and I lock myself in a room. And nothing can even, there's no remote, there's not even, getting up. And when I go to shake it off, I don't get distracted by anything. And then I do another, followed by another day of deep work on a Thursday. And then on Friday, I do all the meetings with my team and my managers and everybody that I need to meet with. And that's my process. And this is what works for me. It's going to be different to you. You need to think about what your plan is and how do you structure your day and what does that look like. But it's got to be in the calendar. You can see like my entire day is scheduled. You know, whether it's like, okay, wake up and commute, then you hit the gym, then I read copy every morning, have my coffee. Even my coffee is in on my calendar. You know what I mean? It's like, so I don't get like caught up reading some sales copy and then like I might have my coffee at 8:30 and then my whole day is derailed. Like I don't take any chances with this shit, right? Then the deep work begins. And then, I plan tomorrow at 3 p.m. And then, I have to pick up my daughter from school. And then I've got all these different things, right? It's all planned in there, all the meetings, all my free time, when I go to bed at night, when I wake up, it is all in this thing. Fully optimized, regimented. If it is not on my calendar, then it does not exist. And, you might think that this is just over the top, like this is like a machine. It's not. You have to think of those units of time that you have and how important that they are to you. And for me, wasting 15 minutes is an absolute crime. And it's something that I just don't engage in. And when I do disengage, I'm fully disengaged. So when I come back, I'm at peak level 10 energy and I am producing godlike levels of output. And if you like this concept of deep work and really kind of how do you get really, really focused in a world full of distractions, there's a fantastic book by Carl Newport called Deep Work. I highly suggest that you go and buy it and read it. It's fantastic. And it's really about the importance of focus and concentration in both work and also in our personal lives. And, to sum that up, here is a great quote by Steve Jobs. Focus does not mean saying yes. It means saying no. And that's what a lot of people aren't really good at. They're not good at saying no because they think it's like, it's confrontational to say no things, to say no to somebody that you don't have the time to meet or no for a meeting because that is, it's going to rub people up the wrong way. And, really in business, it's not just about those time demands as well. It's just about what you choose to put your focus on. And it is much more about saying no than it is about yes. So it's much more about saying, no, I'm not going to engage in that activity because it's the opposite of focus, rather than saying, yes, I'm going to do this because it's focused work. It's all about elimination, right? And inverting that distraction and cutting all the distraction from your life like waste. Now, this brings us to the next point, which is decision fatigue. From the moment that you wake up in the morning, you are making decisions like what clothes should I wear? What should I have for breakfast? Or what audiobook or playlist should I listen to? You've already made a ton of decisions by the time that you arrive at work or you arrive and sit down at your desk, and your day is just getting started and you've already made all these decisions, right? And these are all mindless decisions and questions that are popping up in your brain that are taking up and zapping your mental RAM. And our brains are tired of making decisions. And this is called decision fatigue because decisions take a lot of mental effort, whether you're aware of it or not. And that's a problem. Like making choices reduces your physical and mental stamina and reduces your persistence and reduces your willpower, and it even encourages procrastination. So, how to prioritize what matters. The decisions that we spend the most time on are rarely the most important ones. No matter how rational that you are, you can't make decisions after decision after decision without draining your brain power. That's not how it works. Now, it's different from normal physical fatigue because you're not consciously aware of being tired, but it is zapping your mental energy, right? And your mental RAM, as I call it. And the more choices that you make, the harder that they become, right? You'll notice that towards the end of the day, typically people defer making hard decisions because they've already made so many decisions throughout the day and they're not aware that that's the reason why, but making the same decision that would be easy early in the morning is difficult later in the afternoon. And to save energy, your brain starts to look for shortcuts. And one shortcut is to be reckless and just to act impulsively rather than rationally. You stop thinking about second and third order consequences of the decisions that you have to make, and you start looking for shortcuts or only think about the immediate consequences of this decision, which then creates much, much bigger problems in the long run. So instead of spending your mental RAM on just mindless shit, what to wear every single day or what to have for lunch or like what book am I going to read or listen to, you want to structure your life to conserve that willpower and to avoid that decision fatigue. And you want to establish habits and routines and schedules that eliminate the mental effort of making choices. For example, instead of like deciding every morning whether or not that you should exercise today based on how you feel, set up regular appointments to work out and have what exercises that you'll do and with whom you'll do it with. Like for me, I work out at F45 because I know the days that I'm going to work out and I wake up and I go there and I don't even need to think about what am I going to be doing today or what did I work out yesterday. It's all done for me. I don't need to use or make any decisions about any of that stuff. Those guys there can do it. I know that I'm going to get a brutal workout when I go there every day. Okay? So instead of counting on willpower to remain robust all day or all week, you need to conserve it so that it's available to you as a resource for the important decisions that you're going to need to make. Because as business owners, we're literally making hundreds of decisions a day that can have huge, profound, and grave consequences for the future of our businesses. Right? And wasting that mental power on trivial things, it literally makes no sense at all. So you really want to eliminate all decisions that you have and you have to make. So like clothes, you've probably noticed like in all of my videos, like I'm pretty much wearing the same thing. Like I only wear black t-shirts and in winter they're long sleeve and in summer they're short. Like my wife often like laughs when we're going overseas and it's like a whole suitcase just full of black t-shirts, right? I've got like 3 pairs of pants and 2 pairs of shoes, and I refuse to waste my precious mental energy on what I should wear every day or having some fancy Gucci belt or something stupid like that. Like I just have it robotic. It's like I open up my cupboard and it's like, I don't even need to think about what I'm going to wear today. I literally just pull out a black t-shirt and bang, I'm ready to rock and roll. Food. So I have somebody come and make me my meals. And she has a number of meals that I like and I don't need to make any decisions around this. She doesn't need to ask like, what do you feel like today? It's all set out. And it's the same every week. And she'll have a whole bunch of meals that she can rotate in there. And I don't care which one is what. She just makes them for me, right? My workouts, as I mentioned, I work out at F45 on the same days every week at the same time. No thinking, right? I just go there, get it done. Even small things like my keys, like for my car, right? I put them on a special place in my house with my wallet, with my watch, so I don't need to run around my house in the morning wondering where I've left my keys. My calendar, as I showed you before, everything that I do is on my calendar. I never need to think or wonder what is it that I have on today, right? My professional fixer, my PA, she manages that for me. Everything goes in there. All the notes on everything is on every single meeting request or any task, any resources that I need. It's all in the one place. I don't need to be scattered around trying to get information and make decisions. I simply wake up and then I look at my calendar and I know what I have to do on that day. No decisions. Right? I conserve all of my mental horsepower to working on important tasks. And visually, this is what it looks like. This is basically like my working day as a life. These are the tools that I need. Do you know what I mean? I've got black t-shirts. I've got, 2 pairs of shoes. This is my calendar. I drink just plain black coffee. I have my meals. I drink water. Because it's not just these decisions. Like many people are constantly distracted throughout their day, mindlessly checking emails. They're quickly scrolling through Instagram and Twitter while they're listening to something. And the average person switches between tasks over 300 times a day. And this is just during work hours. Like, imagine if you just watch like a video camera of somebody's eyes and how erratic that they are, just like switching between tasks all day. And each of those decisions has been proven to eat away at your willpower. Eventually, you hit a wall and you get that decision fatigue. Now, you might be thinking, like, shit, Sabri, that is all, like, very dull and boring. Like, you only wear black shirts and, like, look how simple things is. Well, for me, like, I really want to clear my life to make it so that I have to make as few decisions as possible about anything except how to best reach my goals and where it is that I am trying to go and who it is that I am trying to become. And this means not using my mental energy on deciding what to eat for breakfast or what to wear, right? Or what type of coffee or all of that kind of stuff. Like, I feel like I'm not doing effectively, I'm doing my job and I'm not serving my clients or my team members that really rely on me if I spend my mental energy on things that are frivolous about my day-to-day life. Like, which shirt should I wear? Like, who gives a shit? Like, do you know what I mean? Just wear what works, what's practical, what you like, so that you can go and do all the things that you need to do as a high-performance machine. Because you can't have a life that is cluttered with all of those things and then still think that you're like really getting like the same level of output from somebody who doesn't have all that bloat and that clutter. And I'm not the only one that shares this view. Obama only wore gray and blue suits. Steve Jobs wore the same black turtleneck top and blue jeans every single day. And there's countless other people who engage in the same activity. Like, do you want like the leader of a company, like leader of a country like Obama, like having 50 different types of suits that he has to choose from? Like, he's very clear on what the decision fatigue was for him, and picking like, you know, either it's a gray or a blue suit, it's just like yes or no. Do you know what I mean? And it's not worried about, oh, let me wear this pin with this one and these socks. Like, it's just not an effective use of your time. And so really, when it comes down to, like, we spoke about sleep, and we spoke about diet, and we spoke about exercise and environment, and really building moats, right? And kind of distraction through subtraction. And I've gone over those in the last module where I broke down each different element, but we didn't get to the tools. So now I want to actually, most people start with the tools, and there's a conscious effort why I have it at the bottom of the pyramid. Right? It's no way near as important as all the other stuff. But your tools are definitely very important in terms of what your outputs are, but they're the least important out of everything. So let me just run you through my tools. So let's talk about machinery and let's talk about hardware, like PC or Mac. It doesn't matter what it is that you use, make sure that it is fully spec'd out. I use an iMac Pro. It costs $8,000 plus, but this thing is spec'd out to the heavens. It is a high performance machine. Just as a carpenter or a tradesmith or a tradesperson is not going to use like a blunt saw all day long, my computer, my machinery is responsible for my output. It is the number one machine that I use in order to do my tasks. And if, the hardware on it and the operating system and all that stuff it lags in between apps 2 or 3 seconds because it's not fully spec'd up, that is really limiting my output. And that adds up and has a huge, profound impact over a day, over a week, over a month, over a year, over a decade. So whatever computer, whether you like Mac or PC, I don't care. Go out there and spend the money. Get the best of the best, fully spec'd out like a high performance machine. You might be like, oh my God, why would I go and spend $8,000 on a computer? Think about how much time you spend on your computer. Look at the King's audit. Look how much time is worth to you, and think about what a saving of an extra hour of output per day would be worth to you in time over the course of, a month, over a year, and you'll see that $8,000 is an absolute pittance to the amount of extra money that will make you in terms of your output. The second thing is double your mouse speed. Put your mouse speed to the fastest that it possibly goes. If I ever have to sit down at somebody's computer and they've got their tracking speed on their mouse at half, it's what are you doing? Seriously, what are you doing? Like, it's like you're like trying to run a marathon in wet quicksand. Like, it's the most ridiculous thing ever. Because if you're thinking about like the productivity from, your output on your tools, the things that affect it most is how quick your computer is, but more so than that, like once you've got that ticked away, is how quickly that you can navigate around that interface. And that is largely dependent on your mouse, right? And it's going to take a while to get used to. It's going to like, whoa, the mouse is going everywhere. And it's a small thing, but it's ridiculous, the output levels. And then the second thing beyond the mouse, so that plays a huge part. And then the next thing is like typing. Okay, so make sure that your keyboard that you use has the number pad on the right hand side, because it's easier to get to and it's quicker and allows you to quickly calculate things. And typically as a business owner, you're going to be doing a lot of calculations. Then once you've got that keyboard, the next thing that you really want to focus on is your typing speed. It's between your mouse speed and your typing speed that really just depicts so much of the output that you're able to do whilst you're working on the machine. Now, the average person types between 38 and 40 words per minute. And that translates between like 190 to 200 characters per minute. However, professional typists, they type a lot faster than that, right? On average, they type between 65 and 75 words per minute, right? Double the output. And everything that you do is typing, like emails and copywriting and browsing around the web. So you want to get faster at it and you want to deliberately practice it. You can just type in online typing test and spend 15 minutes per week practicing your typing speed. Because that 15 minutes is going to compound and you're going to get way more output. Just the mouse speed and your typing speed, you will get a lot of output from that just alone before diving into everything else that I'm about to go through. Now, you might be thinking like mouse speed and typing speed, that seems like trivial, but I like to zoom out, right? And give you the 10,000 foot level view and looking at your energy and your sleep and all of that kind of stuff. And then also zoom right in to the forensic details and the specifics in the weeds of exactly how to just squeeze every single last ounce of efficiency out of you and out of your output, right? And these things really get you a lot more output. So, spend the time, do it, get the keyboard, and then also spend the time in actually practicing your typing speed. Next is an app for Mac called Alfred, and Alfred basically just supercharges your Mac. This thing is ridiculously powerful and it's very, very effective in giving you speed in navigating around your Mac. And really, to show you like a side-by-side example, the nuances are subtle, but watch for them. So essentially, this is Alfred, and it replaces like the spotlight feature on Mac. And look at the quickness and what it brings up in the search results. So I type in P, and I got all the different P apps that come up. S, got Sonos and Spotify and all of those. Where they use Spotlight, and I type it in, like it takes longer. But not only does it take longer, but if you look at the results that it brings up, they're no way near as good. Because Alfred will go in and deep index everything and bring it up much quicker in the RAM, and then it looks at, how frequently you open certain things up, and it displays them in corresponding order in the results. And there is a whole bunch of other shortcuts down, and basically that cut down on repetitive manual tasks that you do. So if you get the app that's got a full screen, it will run you through all the single shortcuts that you can do to it. That is a huge one. So I highly recommend that one. It will really help you. Then next is, if you're using, a Mac, is the Command Tab feature, where you can just switch in between tabs that you're working with, and you're not scrolling around and looking for the other tabs that you got open. You just press Command Tab and you just scroll through them. Bang, quickly get into a project. It's a lot quicker. Again, we're looking for those little small hinges that really all add up to getting our output. Then little ones for Chrome. So you want to learn all of the shortcuts for Chrome. So for instance, pressing Command L puts the cursor directly up into the address bar so you can search for something. So again, you're going to be searching for things on Google multiple times a day. You do not want to be getting your mouse, going up to the address bar, clicking it and just type. Just Command L, start typing, enter, bang. right? Or if you press Control, Shift, and Tab, it takes you to the previous tab in Chrome. So you can just switch between tabs without clicking on them again, right? We're looking for those small bits of efficiency. The other thing, which is huge and it works for just decluttering, is inbox zero, right? You don't want any emails in your inbox. Anything that's in your inbox, it must require some sort of action from you. Otherwise, it shouldn't be in there. Because like I often think like when someone has like a wall of emails and they're opening them up, every single time that they look at that wall of emails, their brain is processing what it is that they need to do with these emails. And they're reading subject lines and then previews and they're like, do I need to get to that? Don't I need to get to that? I don't know. They're using their brain power and they're going to hit that decision fatigue. And it all adds up where it's like, if you look at your inbox and there's one thing in there, it's like, bang, I need to get onto that, click in there and just get it done, archive it and get it the hell out of your inbox. So you must optimize for inbox zero. This is very good to basically keep that processing power in your brain and not hit decision fatigue. Then the next thing is that you want to be clicking into the settings tab of Gmail. You know, you're using Gmail as your number one email provider, and you go in here and there's a bunch of settings that we're going to activate. So the first one that we're going to do is we are going to enable send and archive button in reply. So every email that we send that doesn't require us to do anything more, it's just going to automatically archive it out of the inbox. And it's just going to go, so it's going to help you to get to inbox zero without having you go back to the inbox, tick it, and then archive it, right? These all add up, these little tweaks. Then the other huge thing, like this is a massive lever for output, if you're spending a lot of time doing email, is enabling the keyboard shortcuts in Gmail. This is crazy. So then basically once you enable it, you basically pressed Shift and the question mark, and it will bring up all of the shortcut features in Gmail. So for instance, like R, you just hit R in an email, it will start replying. Or if you press A, it will reply all. Or if you press F, it will forward. Or GI, that will go to your inbox. So you don't need to press the inbox thing. And you can see them all up on your screen. It's basically Shift question mark once you've activated this, and then you'll start to use these every day, and this is going to save you a ton of time. Now, since we're on the topic of emails, this brings us to Loom, and Loom is my secret weapon. This thing saves me so much time. Basically, what it does is it's a screen recording software that records what's up on your screen and then also a video of you and narration. You can talk to it. So instead of sitting down and like thinking about grammar and structuring your thoughts and writing an email and trying to explain something to somebody or show them how to do something on an interface, you literally get this Chrome plugin, you install it, it's free, and it just allows you to get your message across much quicker and share it to people. And it's just, there's a lot less back and forth that needs to go on. So I'll just show you an example of how this looks in action. So basically this is Loom, and you can essentially see my head down the bottom, and then you can essentially see what my screen is and the stuff that I've got open. So instead of trying to craft a long email to somebody, you could just be like, you know, say for instance, you're trying to show someone where you are on Google Maps, for instance. You just bring up Maps. And you could be like, yeah, so essentially this is the building, and what you can do is these are the car parks out here. So what I recommend that you do is park here, and then essentially you can walk around the block and come in here. This is the front entrance, and ring the doorbell. Let me know if you've got any questions about that, or you can give me a buzz on your mobile and I'll show you how to get up, right? That's one example. Or you can click on, you know, Street View if you want to get really crazy and be like, okay, cool, this is the building. You know, there's an entrance down here, but you can't use that entrance. You have to come up through here. Another thing might be you want to show somebody, I don't know, a pair of Adidas shoes that you want to buy. You could send them the link, but there might be certain different things about the different types of shoes, and you'd be like, okay, cool, I want this one, or I want the one with like the black trim down the bottom and not just the white trim. So this is like literally takes no time to do, and it will save you a ton Again, seems trivial, but that will save you a ton of time. And it's specifically good when you're talking about, if you want to show somebody like the interface or something on a software or where to find something on Dropbox or whatever it might be. It's something that you will find yourself using in all different areas of your life, and you'll be very thankful for it. The next thing is got-a-minute meetings. These things are hell on earth. And when you're growing and scaling a team, if you don't have this blocked out time, what you're going to find is that, when you're building a team and managers, like, you're going to see people when you go play table tennis or you go get a drink of water or you go to the bathroom or whatever it might be, and they're like, hey, do you just got a minute? The little got-a-minute meetings. And they're like, it's like getting death by 1,000 cuts, these things, because they seem so innocent and it's just a meeting, right? It's just got a minute, right? So instead what you want to do, you want to kill these things. And the way that I got around it is that I structured a thing on Calendly where I've just got 5-minute meetings, right? And it says, like, so in either anybody's got a minute that they want to talk to me about, they have to schedule it. It has to be booked in. And they need to have the points that they want to discuss written down and ready for a quick and punchy 5-minute meeting. So when they actually go and they book it in on my calendar, it will actually ask them questions like, what is this about? What will we be discussing? So it just keeps it bang on task. 5 minutes is the smallest interval that I could do. And typically the minute meetings is never a minute meeting, right? It's at bare minimum 5 minutes, and I keep them to 5 minutes. And you want to have dedicated time of shallow work that you can get those things answered for your team, because you do have to be accessible. You can't just be like a monk that no one can ever come and talk to. You still need to be accessible to be able to help and lead your team, but you need to do it in an organized fashion. And this is a great way to do it. You just get it set up, it's automated. And then I just briefed my entire team where it says, like, if you ever want to talk to me, this is the way that you do it. Now, here is a great quote by Gretchen Rubin. Turn off your email, turn off your phone, disconnect from the internet, figure out a way to set limits so you can concentrate when you need to and then disengage when you need to. Technology is a good servant, but a bad master. And that really summarizes exactly what we've kind of gone over in today's module. And the resources that you can use for this module can all be found in the resources section. I've included an all-in-one ultimate keyboard shortcut cheat sheet that has all the single kind of shortcuts that you would need for a Mac and also for a PC that are really just going to help optimize the way that you operate your machinery. Then you'll also have the RICE tool that you can prioritize in between the tasks that you need to focus on and really just have the output that you need on the tasks that matter most in your business. Now, today's action items is to ruthlessly prioritize. It is a muscle. You need to train this thing, and you need to be aware that this is something that you're going to actively start practicing in your business. The second thing is manage your energy, not time. Start to think about, where do you operate best? At what time of the day? Where do you get the most output? And start to manage your calendar based on that energy. And think about, your time that you've got to apply to a task as not just simply units of time, but also as energy. And that's the key distinction. You need to drain the shallows. Turn all notifications off your phone. Have no chat open, and really get rid of any and all things that are sucking you into the shallows on mindless crap. Delete social media apps off your phone. Make sure, by God, that every single notification is turned off on email, on all the social networks that you use, on all of that stuff. Really focus on subtracting all of that, like, just noise, and drain all the shallows. Then create structure and routine. So sit down and actually plan out your week and have a look at where you're going to be applying your time and what you're going to be doing every single day, and have it all structured, all plugged into the calendar, and find a structure that works for you. The next point is to eliminate mindless decisions. Look at all the decisions that you make on a daily and on a weekly basis and see what is it that you can eliminate, right? And reduce as much as you possibly can, and just completely eradicate and eliminate any mindless decisions that you make. Once you start applying all these principles, you are going to be a different human being. You're going to just be so much clearer, so much centered, and just ready to go and rearing to work on the most important tasks. And then you're going to get much more work done, but you have to follow this process. You can't just think that you can continue to make hundreds of decisions before you start your workday and be effective. And then lastly is to optimize your machinery. Go and get a most spec'd out Mac or PC that you can. Make sure all the tools that you have are good. Get a good keyboard. Put your mouse up, to the fastest it can go. Work on your typing speed, look for all these efficiencies with shortcuts and all this kind of stuff. So go ahead, get to work on those things, and I will see you in the next video.